going on, TAP? That's right. This your boy Playb chillin'. I want to welcome everybody to the show. This is the Apocalypse Project. You officially been tapped. I want to introduce my co-host. We got R.E.V the Servant in the building. We got Gonzo over there doing what he do. We got Ariel live in the building. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
All right, man. So we're trying to do something different. Well, I mean, we did this in the last show where we're doing this remote access deal. I think it worked out pretty decent last time. I mean, I don't know. Have you heard any of our... Did you hear our last show, Ariel, by chance?
I haven't. Brand new to the show, and just excited about the new adventure here.
Nice. So, I don't know, what the hell's Gonzo doing over there?
Yeah. So, anyways, we're doing something a little bit different. Like, again, everything has gone in haywire because of this whole coronavirus thing,
including
we're trying some new things, and obviously we're working out the kinks. We had a really good show the last time we were with everybody else. It was a whole smorgasbord of people. So here we are introducing the TAP on a new tip. For real.
Yeah, I know, right? So I know, Ariel, you said you had some talking points you wanted to touch on. You want to go ahead and bring that in? But first of all, go ahead and let our little audience that we have know about your podcast and what you're doing over there. And maybe, put a little plug in there.
Yeah, so my podcast will be available on SoundCloud, www.soundcloud.com/air. Live on air. I think you have a link already with Ariel Live. And, it kind of just started off just talking crap to my coworkers after work on the train. And, we do everything from the but lately I kind of felt more open to talking about COVID-19, and a lot of people's lives have changed over a short amount of time. And so different people are talking about mental health, how this started off anti-vaccine, now going to vaccine.
Yeah.
People who are hard workers kind of left on their ass to figure shit out. And, it's been kind of crazy because people who even would label themselves as like, I'm a hard worker, I'm doing this, are left without a job at this point. And, their families are kind of left in question because every week, every day is a new type of update. Working in healthcare, I have a lot of good intel regarding the pandemic and where it lays. But, so I just been touching base with a bunch of my followers already on Instagram, Ariel_live, and seeing what people are doing during this time. Students, teachers, a bunch of different type of jobs that they have. But that's about it.
No, that's pretty cool. I mean, I'm really excited to work with you and work with other people and help each other out in this time, especially now. People are hungry for entertainment, so if there ever is a time, it's right now, to get into this whole podcasting thing. And it's interesting. I do listen to a lot of different other podcasters, so I'm interested into checking yours out. And first of all, I just want to thank you for even allowing us to collab with you. This is cool. But the one thing that struck me as interesting is you were in the healthcare field, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm an information analyst. I do everything from death certificates to little secret information.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Don't get us on a watch list.
No. Keep it all quiet.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. So what's your whole perspective on this COVID-19 thing? You think people are overreacting? Is it, in the words of Trump, is it fake news, fake media? Or
Wait. He didn't say necessarily that.
No, but he said that about news groups, I should say. Let me go ahead.
Oh, you
think these news groups? Yeah, you think it's just all hype, or is there some validity to it?
I want to say that as far as the news goes, I do think that there was some magnifying of fear and, people not necessarily saying all of the information that they're having. I mean, even one of the things I heard this morning on one of the cruise ships, they found organisms up to 17 days living on hard surfaces in that cruise ship.
Wow.
The thing is, the whole truth is there's a certain amount of droplets that you need in order to get the virus. And they're not saying that. They're just saying that there are small organisms of the virus. And so when they say one part of facts, it scares people. Like 17 days, like I could touch something 17 days later. No, that's not true. So when it comes to the news, for sure, there has been a different like feeding of information. When it comes to physicians and the network of healthcare, there's a lot of people on the front lines, not just nurses and doctors, but security, registration people, a lot of people who work within the healthcare facility that are afraid for their to get sick, or to, even if we got sick, the four of us here right now, we would probably be okay. But if you have loved ones that are older, even kids, I see it every day with the information that I'm getting. A lot of people are able to get sick from this. There's no age range. The virus is not a respecter of people. So when it comes to the healthcare facts, it is important to wash your hands. And I think just growing up, drinking water from a water hose and stuff, I feel like I'm immune. But there is good like hygiene skills that I think people are onto. It does piss me off when people are still sneezing and coughing and not covering their fucking mouth. Yeah, for sure. So I think so it's a mixture of fear. I think Donald Trump is trying to do what he can managing a pandemic like this, because it's not necessarily something you physically see. And we haven't been here in this day and age, 2020, to deal with this. And I was talking to Gonzo earlier this week, and he was saying that we were so dependent on other countries that America kind of doesn't have its own stance when shit hits fan. Right. So it's kind of a mixture.
Hey, Sophie. Well, we got another in-studio guest there.
Well, now I'm in full daddy mode now that all the jobs and schools are shut down.
Yeah, for sure. It's really is. I do want to give a lot of respect and gratitude towards stay-at-home parents, stay-at-home moms or fathers, for that matter, because it really is a full-time job. I mean, I had to stay at home for a year, and it's tough. It's really. I take my hat off and commend a lot of people. Because being at home, I mean, sure, people, you say, oh, it sounds fun and whatnot, but yeah, it's really tough. It's really hard work. I gotta admit. And you can only wash the dishes so many times. You can only clean the house so many times before you start going stir crazy. I know I was getting cabin fever, and the one thing that's keeping me sane right now is actually doing what we're doing right now. It's kind of keeping me occupied, and but so my thing is, what makes this virus different than the flu? I mean, I know they're both asymptomatic. Usually that's how viruses work to begin with. They're more, you're most contagious when you're not showing symptoms, but is it, I know the data is limited right now, but do you think this is going to be worse than the influenza virus? I mean, because that kills a numerous amount of people every year.
So I think so, just because there hasn't been a cure yet. So it's just fear of the unknown, I think. Well, because at least you can give people a flu shot. Yeah. There's no cure for this. Well, at least not yet.
Well, we can vaccinate against influenza, but there's no cure for the common cold either. It's like no. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think only time? I guess only time will tell. Essentially, but I have the feeling that there's something else going on here that we're not privy to. Especially here in California, we got the National Guard being deployed, or they're approved to be deployed, I guess, at the whim of the governor or at the county levels as well. But I don't know. What's your guys' take on this whole Corona thing?
I actually know a couple people who told me that a lot of Marines that they know have been deployed to San Francisco. Currently, New York is operating with military in the streets. Damn. And even before they announced the National Guard being deployed out here, I knew someone who let me know that was going to happen. So there's a lot of bigger talks that happen up here. The more that people do not shelter in place, the longer we're going to have to do it. And if people continue not to do it and people get more sick, the government is going to step in. Right. So right now we're practicing our free will. So like they're warning us, this is what's best for us. But if you want to go ahead and hang out with a bunch of people, and potentially get coronavirus, you run that risk, not just for yourself, but everyone else. So you're basically taking away our freedom by not listening to warnings in advance.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. Like, I know I'm guilty of this when I was younger. It's like, I feel great, fuck it, whatever. But at the same time, we're not privy to the information that governments or health officials have. So we really don't know. And especially a virus such as this that's new, we still don't know if it's going to mutate or, if it's going to morph. Because, viruses could very well mutate. And then now we got a new strain of COVID-19 or whatever, So I think it's a good thing to shelter in place. This is good practice, if worst case scenario, but it's interesting times for sure.
I was listening to the Breakfast Club, and they were saying they believe that there's two different strands of this coronavirus. Like there's a regular one, and they call it the coronavirus S plus because it's from China, and that's the one that's taking people out.
Well, there was a rumor that back when kind of people thought it was the flu and even got tests, and they were like, "Oh, this ain't the flu." That could possibly be one of those strands of COVID-19.
Oh, wow.
And, we're just hearing about it now. So that's what kind of like beats up the purpose.
Yeah.
There's a lot of theory, and there's not a lot of evidence.
What's your take on all this, Rev? How do you feel about all this?
Well, like for instance, I do feel like there's a lot of conflicting things. So right now you hear a lot of things from local government. Well, you hear the national level. You hear that, okay, number one, you look around, the stock market's crashing, the economy is in sheer free fall. You see that everything that had been working so good for so long has automatically come to an immediate halt and actually is diving down. You look at big cities and big areas, more congested areas like New York and San Francisco, Los Angeles, even up in Seattle area, where you see these really high level of cases of infections and even death rate. So the idea of this, what we're seeing so far is the matter of fact that it is so new. Novel. That's what novel means. It's a new virus. It's something that we haven't seen before. We've seen strains of it before, but this is something completely new that affects that it affects humanity in a completely different way than we saw before with other influenzas. It's just like I said, the scary thing is that people that are asymptomatic can still spread this thing. I don't think that's quite possible with the influenza. You really are not contagious to anybody else unless you're actually feeling symptoms. So that's the one thing that has got a lot of people freaked out, and that's the whole point for this on quarantine. But what we're seeing with all this panic, and sometimes I think, is it really panic or is it not? Now, for instance, we talked about in the last show where some of the Scandinavian countries in Europe have actually taken a different model in dealing with the coronavirus. And what they're doing, instead of shutting down their entire economic system, they're only telling those who are that are at risk, like high at risk individuals. They are the ones that should shelter in place. But everybody else that isn't should go ahead and carry on as normal. But we do hear these stories that, hey, this does affect all ages. It's just like at this point, it seems like the luck of the draw. It's like the Russian roulette kind of deal, in that aspect. So I don't know. It one hand, it does seem like this is a big deal, but on the other hand, I'm like, well, how big can it? Is it bigger for certain individuals and not others? Is it just depends on genetics? Does it depend on your health background or whatever? I don't know. There's still so much that we really don't know, and we're hoping. Donald Trump is hoping that after 15 days we could reassess and see how this curve is flattened down, and then we can
kind of go
decide whether we open everything back up.
What do you think, Gonzo? Do you think things will? Do you think the curve is going to flatten? I know there's reports of new deaths happening every day, but do you think we're on the right bit? Do you guys see the curve flattening as far as with the limited information that we do have right now? Or you guys' best speculation?
Honestly, I don't even know. My main concern is making sure me and my family are taken care of, that we're safe. I can't control what other people are doing, so because, like you said, people have to still go to work. People that can go to work are going to work. I wish I was able to go to work. Because shit, I'm only getting paid 20 hours. I can't pay my rent on 20 hours.
Well, that's another thing we should talk about, too, is that how the Democrats have supposedly held up this whole relief bill in the Senate.
Well, supposedly it wasn't because of anything other than Donald Trump was looking out for corporations, which I don't know how true that is. I haven't read the bill, but
I read an article last night on CNN of all places.
It's like a $50 trillion bailout for the big corporations.
50 trillion is a big number. I think what it was a $3 trillion package in total, and it did, I think, set aside certain number of $1 billion, yes, for corporations, and a lot of Democrats, something, I think it's 50 billion or something like that. So they're the ones that are opposed to that idea of even helping out the corporations at all. So I mean,
all of being a Democrat and having those views that are getting challenged right now, you want to look out for everybody, but the truth is, when the shit hits that, everything narrows in to look out for your family.
Right.
And that's what's holding up the bill. That's what's like, yes, we don't want to look out for a corporation, the man money, but when those corporations give us jobs, those corporations do provide it. It may not be the that we invest for, but I mean, even like Gonzo, I mean, getting paid 20 hours a week is not enough. Is your corporation part of the bill? No, it's not. And so I mean,
one way I'm kind of looking at it though is these corporations are getting money, but like if we're part of these corporations, I mean, we could be potentially getting money from them regardless, though.
We would never see physical money from the corporations. We would see job or resources, but it wouldn't be physical money as if the bill were.
Yeah. Well, here's how it looks to me. When I was reading an article and I was reading somebody else on Facebook, somebody else commented on their idea, and they're thinking the reason why this is a bad deal that they're trying to push through the Senate is mainly because there's nothing that protects the workers overall. So let's say therefore that these companies get this money from this stimulus package, these billions of dollars, and there's no protection for the workers, so they would take their billions, and because they're in dire straits as well as everybody else is, corporations are exempt, that they would then fire or let go of their workers because it's more cost effective for them right now. And then a lot of the Democrats, a lot of people that are Democrats or liberals are looking at that and saying, well, this is just Donald Trump looking out for corporations. And then you're exactly right, because who are the ones that even hire people to begin with? Whenever corporations, either in this situation that we're in right now or any other situation, or just in normal business, when a corporation is doing bad, what do? They got to let go of workers.
Yeah.
That's just a part of the way it works. So
by capitalism, and that's what Ronald Reagan did with GM, Flint, Michigan. That's what it's going to happen with Donald Trump and other corporations. Is that it's more money saver to fire 40,000 employees than it is to keep them on. And so that's why capitalism works so much in America, that people is that they get a job and they're not getting paid when they're able to get paid, but not good, and they're expected to work 2 times as hard as when there was unions or anything else to support people, the working man. The working man is dipped out of the whole bill. And that's unfortunate because there's so many people who are Republicans who are the working man that deserve to get an equal part of any package that comes and happens, as much as any corporation. But if that bill came a part of, let's give the corporations this money with the regard that they're not going to fire 40,000 people.
Right.
But they're
but you can't force a corporation to not fire anybody. And I think that's the impasse that we're in. Look, the stimulus package was going to guarantee sending at least $1,200 to every American for the time being, because even though I think that's almost like just a drop in the bucket for almost any family, I mean, especially if you're not working, it's just supposed to supplement something. The reality is I kind of agree with the whole idea of like maybe this, because it's kind of funny because Andrew Yang ran on this promise of $1,000 a month for every American, when he was running for president, and that whole universal basic income kind of thing. But when Donald Trump first was proposing this, I'm kind of like, I don't know if this is gonna solve all the problems, and I still don't think it's gonna solve all the problems. I really think that there's gonna be long-lasting effects that's gonna take a while for the economy to get built back to where it needs to be. Even though the groundwork has already been laid, Donald Trump has established a good foundation for the economy to recover. The only question now is how long will it take for that recovery to happen? And this is unprecedented. We don't know. It's not like in 2008 where when the government bailed out the auto industry and the banking industry just because of the decisions that they made. So I totally disagreed with what happened back then. They should have never bailed out those industries. The free market and capitalism should have happened the way it should have happened. These companies made bad decisions. No business is too big to fail. They should have failed. But right now, this is something completely different. This is something unlike anything that we've seen in our modern era. Even with the Spanish flu back 100 years ago, this wasn't, it was drastic, but it wasn't as far-reaching and impactful as it is now because of how grand or how big our economy has expanded, not just within our borders, but also over the world. So it's definitely a different situation than we've ever seen.
I like that you brought up the fact that the efforts that Donald Trump have put into place, the economy back up to lift back up to the place. Because he's a businessman, entrepreneur, I think he does have a skill set to do that. However, throwing the pandemic on top of that just even flattens any opportunity for like some visible showing of that recovery. So you're not going to see the immediate effects of any idea that Donald Trump had in place to make the economy better because you're throwing a pandemic on top of that. It's bringing it back down.
Right.
No, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. This is something that we've never seen. Like a lot of people, it's just I don't think we've ever been at the highest heights. Our economy was at the greatest point I think we've ever seen since the beginning of the 1920s. And then for it to take a dive in a matter of weeks at the way it did. It went from the highest to literally the lowest it's ever been. Our economy has never been this low. So there are going to be ramifications going forward from this. We just don't know exactly what those are going to be. But like I said, I do believe that there has been a framework that it could only be handled under. Like the reason why the economy took so long to get to where it was before the coronavirus was because we had a president like Barack Obama in office. Okay, if we had somebody like Donald Trump in office before, like in 2008 and all that, 2009, then we might have seen an exponential amount of growth then. So I do blame a lot of all what happened between 2008 and 2016 on Obama's administration. So what Donald Trump was able to do in a short amount of time was build a great economy. Now the only question is, how long will it take in these unprecedented times for that economy to get back to where it was? I don't know. Does Donald Trump have the answers? I do believe there's a foundational groundwork, but that's only time will tell from this point on.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
I mean, I think the economy was breaking prior to Barack Obama even taking office. George W. Bush was a huge part of American industry being based on international people. And and so because you give this framework of we're going to depend on international manufacturing companies, they make better cars with better fuel efficiency, they do this and this and this, they begin to fuel America's economy. And, even under George W. Bush, so many of the working men were laid off because he was a framework for big corporations to, it's probably better if you go bankrupt and fire the employees before you do. And so that's what fucks over a middle class. There's really not a middle class at this point. There just isn't. You're either making good money and surviving and doing good, or you're getting by. And there's no middle class. What we probably were making at this point in our life, take it back 10, 20 years, we would be doing pretty well. That's not the case anymore. So Barack Obama, Democrat he is, people's person he is, it's honestly a downfall of being a Democrat is that you want to take care of everybody, but you just fucking can't. And
that's called socialism.
It's just not going to work. So it becomes the fight between capitalism and socialism. Yeah. And so you have to fucking point, figure out what's the fucking balance. it's no longer going to be, even the House right now, the Senate, they're literally every word that comes out of their mouths, every report that comes out of there is like, I've never seen a more unison party, because it's no longer like far left liberals and far right. Like, it's literally, we have to come to a fucking, like, figure some shit out. And
but they're not right now.
It bites everybody in the ass to be one or the other.
Yeah. That ended. And at the very beginning of this, I kind of figured, okay, this is going to be the turning point. It was looking good.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is what it should be, you know?
Yeah, we could put partisanship aside, and I really thought that was happening in the very beginning. I guess there was a photo that was circulating of Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump sharing an embrace or something. I don't know.
She probably ripped that picture up, I tell you.
You know what gets people by, these conversations, because the people that we represent are the people that are just really trying to provide for their families and, eventually not have to struggle like maybe the generations before us did. And when it comes down to it, is like, whatever side of politics you fall on, you really just want to do better. And
right, that's, for sure.
These conversations bring them together, those, open-minded perspective ideas, like pre-COVID-19, super, like, I didn't really like Donald Trump. I don't know him as a person, so it wasn't really a big deal to me. But honestly, like, he's doing what he fucking can. And that's may not even be as much as people expect or want, but, we are all in a limited situation right now. And people just have to face that fact. Is like, maybe you're only getting paid not at all right now. Maybe you're getting paid a couple hours a week right now. Maybe you're still having to go to work and risk getting sick. But, you're just still trying to get by. And when this whole pandemic is over, be that October or even a year from now, we just have to rebuild from what damage that happened here.
Yeah, I think we will as a people. I mean, the American people, we're very resilient, and we've overcome calamities before. I think we're going to be okay. The only thing is at the other end of the tunnel is like when the dust settles, is like what foundation is there going to be left to build upon? I think is going to be the bigger question there, because you're going to, depending on how this thing goes, or how long in isolation we got to be and all that. You know how people are. I'm more worried about rioting and looting and robbing and stealing and home invading than I am anything else, So
that has crossed my mind.
Yeah. So, I think that to me is a bigger threat. I mean, it's just ignorance, I guess, would be the bigger threat in a sense, because some people just don't know, or they just listen to one thing or the other and they choose not to do any research for themselves. I think that's dangerous, because, we've created a society of lazy people that just rely on social media just to give them everything they need to know. And a lot of times it's not the right information. But, it's I think at the end of it all, it's when the dust settles, I think it's going to be, what do we have to build on is going to be the bigger question,
Let me bring up something else, because this is something I was thinking about the other day, because I was watching, I watch a lot of YouTube, and I watch a lot of sports, even WWE things. And what's funny is you watch all these sporting events and you watch all these, like, mass crowds of people at concerts and things like that.
Yeah.
And then now you think, it's like, oh my God, it's like, look at all that. There's that. Don't they know what they could be spreading? So what kind of new norms do you think this will this bring out going forward in society? Like, is there going to be this germophobic? What's that technical term? It's not genderphobic. I forgot what it's called, but it's like, are people going to be more aware of spreading germs and not want to be close to people? Is social distancing going to be the new normal? Like, it just in general for normal life?
Norm. I didn't really like people more than I like dogs.
Yeah, right.
Dogs and cats are probably better than people most times.
Yeah. At least they're honest,
True
that.
So, yeah, but I'm going to get out, guys. I have to log back into work.
For sure. Well, we got to do this again for sure. And next time we'll get all the bugs settled out and we'll get the audio a little better.
Yeah, we will. It was great talking to you. It was great meeting you. We can't wait to do this again. We are going to do this again, guys. Talk to you later.
All right, take care.
All righty.
All right. Well, B.
Yes, sir. I guess that's it for now, huh?
This is yeah. Yeah, we will get all the kinks worked out on this. This is our second time doing this. This might be a new norm also.
Yeah, I mean,
remote virtual podcasting.
And it's actually pretty cool. I kind of like it because we could do it at any time of the day, and we don't have to inconvenience anybody or anything. So yeah, that's cool, man, for sure. Well, anybody got any closing words before we cut it out?
What about you, Alex?
I don't really have anything to say. Is my mic back on? Yeah, I don't know. I think, but like we were saying earlier, with Trump being as president right now, with him doing what he's doing with the factories and everything, I think we'll bounce back. It's a matter of time, but it'll happen.
Yeah. Right, for sure.
I feel the same way. Yeah, like I said, a matter of time. Well, anyway, so we're going to call it, I guess, for now, and then let's do this again tomorrow.
Yeah, let's do it.
Or maybe later on tonight.
Yeah, I'm down with
it. We ain't got nothing going on.
We're all in quarantine anyway.
Yeah, so let's just do this. Let's plan on doing a show either tonight. Let's get a hold of the gang like we did the other day. Let's get the other Alex. Let's get Lance. Let's get Angel back on the line, and let's check in with everybody and seeing how they're doing on their quarantine. I think it's day 7 now. I think what is it?
I lost count, man.
I lost count, man.
Yeah, for sure.
My last day of work was Tuesday. That's when they quarantined the city of Stockton. So
yeah,
what is that? Today's day 7, day 8.
That's the trip.
All right, Cindy.
All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining the TAP for sure. We out. Peace.
Later.